Welcome to my table. I'm so excited that you have decided to join me. Listen, I've started, I've stopped, I've done a lot of different things, but listen, I am back and I am back in series form. This month, we're going to introduce a series called Thirsty Girls, and I really mean exactly what I'm saying. Thirsty. Have you ever met any girl that looks a little thirsty, looks a little needy? We're going to talk about her this week and we're going to give her some help. So I'm glad that you're here. Listen, what I need you to do is like, subscribe, follow, hit the bell, do everything you need to do to be connected to my page. You know who this is. This is Lady Doctor, and you are welcome to a seat at my table. Welcome back to Thirsty Girls, the series, part number 2. If you missed part number 1, you can always go back and find part number 1 and then catch up with us. But we're talking about thirsty girls. I'm going to remind you of what the definition of the slang thirsty girls is: someone who is desperate for attention or validation, and more commonly, desperate for romantic or sexual attention, often referred to as overly eager, and you hear the term needy. So that's what we're talking about. We're talking about thirsty girls, and we're talking about a particular kind of girl. For whatever reason, whatever the reasons are, we're going to deal with the reasons. We're going to get to the bottom of it. And please know that I'm here to help. It may not sound like help in the beginning, but it's going to be helpful at the end. We're going to walk through some of the perceptions of what people see when they refer to someone as a thirsty girl. So let's finish. We talked about last week. We talked about what men see, and from a man's perspective, we talked about men in general. We talked about older men. We talked about what men see, and who becomes wifey. Today, we want to talk about what women see when we see a girl who we consider a thirsty girl. So let's kick it for a few minutes and let's talk about it. And remember, the reason we're doing this is to try to help. It's very easy for us to talk about people behind their back. It's low level conversation to run people down out of their presence, especially if you're supposed to be their friend or even a family member. We all smiling in your face, and when you walk away, we say thirsty, or we are afraid because you putting your thirsty self in the presence of our men, and we are threatened and we are all mad and all that stuff in the background. So I'm going to have the hard conversations. I'm going to bring it to the table. And today you have a seat at my table as we discuss the dilemma of what we call thirsty girls. So from a woman's perspective, first of all, some women who might be a little intimidated by a thirsty girl, and some people might be a little threatened by a thirsty girl. Usually, those are insecure women who are not sure about what they have within themselves, or what kind of man they're working with. So, women who are secure about their man, they know, you could be as thirsty as you want. He ain't giving you a drink of water. Or, it's been years and years, and you know who you're working with. So you're really not intimidated by any thirsty girl. What you are is embarrassed for her, or, sometimes you might be like me. You might want to help a girl out, help a sister out, and tell her, that there's a better you inside of there, and you don't have to be so thirsty. Now everybody not going to receive it. You might get punched in the face, or you might get told off, or some subs might get thrown against you on social media. But when your heart is pure and you know that your intention is to try to help somebody reach a level of potential that you know they can reach, you take the shots. I can handle that. So if you are one of those girls who are considered a thirsty girl, consider perspectives. Go back to week number 1 in the series and see what men might be thinking. Now let's talk about what women might be thinking. Before you say, I don't care, I don't care, I don't care, later for them, they just hate me because they can't be me. Before you go into all of that, let's just try to hear it. All right. So let's talk about what some women see. So as I told you, some women are afraid of you. When you come around with your tight clothes on and you got this body, banging body, but you think that in order to get the attention you need, you got to show everything, everything, and you have to wear certain kind of clothes that you might as well walk around butt naked because we see everything. You think that that is what you need to do to get the attention that you need to get, and you probably are right. But the attention that you're trying to get is probably not good for you. So if you hear what a man thinks from our perspective, from what I've heard and what I've seen, maybe you change that need around. But when you show up looking that way, and not just looks, because remember, if you saw last week, I don't mean sexy, because there's a difference between sexy and slutty. There's a difference between sexy and just nasty. There's a difference between sexy and thirsty. So you can be sexy and sanctified. You can be sexy and classy. You can be sexy and dignified. So it's not a hit against sexy. But what we're trying to do is we want to identify women who are desperate. Desperation reeks. So it's either what we're wearing, even our makeup. Sometimes we kind of look like RuPaul because we just got on everything. You don't have to do all of that. Some of us might, but some of us don't really need all of that, because sometimes, when a man is trying to be a woman, he got to cover a lot more stuff. So he has to put on cakes and layers of makeup. And sometimes when we're watching these girls do the makeup tips and everything, you can't go by everything you see on YouTube and on social media, because first of all, it's going to take you 45 minutes before you could go to work in the morning, because you got to put on all this stuff, and it's a lot. It's a lot. It's reeking, I need attention. It's reeking, see me. It's reeking, look at me. Please, somebody look at me. So makeup, clothing, some of the clothes we wear are speaking. They're speaking louder than the average voice, because we are saying, please, somebody notice me. And even they started when the Juicy was out for a while, and they put Juicy right across the booty line of the pants. I mean, that means, please look at my behind. So at some point, we have to know what our clothing, what our makeup, and even our body language is sending off. What are we saying to people? And sometimes, you know, women see you all up in the men's face, you all smiling and all giggling, offering entirely too much help, bending entirely too low, leaning entirely too forward, pushing yourself in conversations nobody asked you to be in, pushing yourself in rooms you really should not be in, pushing yourself in spaces where you were not invited. Maybe you were invited by one man in the group, but there's 6 of them in there, and the other 5 want to know what you're doing in here. And so they start thinking maybe she's a little thirsty. So women see that. Women see it from a perspective that you're doing too much, and you just need attention. And then you have the older women, or some of more mature women, who say, poor thing, you know poor little girl, she's so beautiful, she doesn't need to do that, she doesn't need to wear that, she doesn't need to push herself in these rooms. And some of them might pull you aside. Back in the day, they used to pull you aside and say, listen, you don't need to be so forward. These days you can't really do that because kids are rude. 4th grade, they're punching the face. So you got to be really, really careful about trying to help. So this is my way. You can hit me back in the comments. You can get me. You can slap me all you want. Just if you see me in public, don't touch me. We might have a problem. But anyway, these are some of the things that we want to talk about, just so we can offer some help. So women see, also they see you as a threat to their sons, not just their men or their husbands, but now they have sons, they have teenage sons, and you know especially depending on what age they are, you don't want these kind of women to push themselves on your sons too soon. At the point that your son can handle that, if your son is the type that's going to take advantage of a free sandwich, not much you can do about that. You're going to have to mind your business if he grown. But you got some young fellows who are not even there yet, and if you that thirsty, you might think my 16-year-old son is fine, and you 25, and you trying to get me to catch a case because he 14 or he's 16. He might look like he 20, but he's 16 or he's 14, and you all up on him. It might become a little problem. So you don't want people's parents, you don't want people's mother to come for you, and you don't want their fathers to come for you, because they already see that you need so much, and you trying to get it from one of their kids, and they ain't trying to have it. So you have to be very careful about being desperate and being needy and showing it and pushing and extending yourself. Now, when it comes to church and ministry, you certainly don't want the preacher to think that you pushing up on them. You have a guest preacher that comes in. Now, I get it. I live in the real world. You got some, they looking for you, and they gonna tell you where to meet them. They're gonna do what they're gonna do. I ain't covering for nobody because it's a real world out here. But then you have some who are disrespected by your overtones. They're disrespected by your neediness. They're disrespected by your thirst.
Books recently released by TBN's publishing company, Trilogy Christian Publishing, are available to you.
Hello, my name is Jesus by Cynthia McGinnis, a novel for anyone who has ever met a stranger and wondered, who was that really? Imagine if that stranger was Jesus.
These fantastic books are available now. Get yours at Amazon.com, your local bookstore, or visit us at trilogy.tv.
Because number one, you think they slow. Number two, you think it's a possible chance. And even when I was young, a young tenderoni, some of the married preachers would, try to run a game on me. And I wanted to ask myself, do I have a sign on my head that says needy or thirsty? Am I exhibiting anything that makes this old dude think that he had a possible chance with me? Do I exhibit any kind of behavior that's making this man think that it's a possibility, or that I would fool around with him while I know his wife, while I'm sitting right in the same sanctuary with her, while I know he's a married man, what is it about me that might be giving him a signal? It didn't happen often, but whenever it did, I examined what I was wearing that day. I examined how friendly I was being. I examined how, helpful I was trying to be. Maybe I was innocent. Maybe I was just trying. I know I was, because I was never trying to push up on nobody that wasn't pushing back on me. It wasn't that kind of party. But maybe some of the clothes I had on made me look a little thirsty. Maybe my body language was giving signals. So while I didn't have anybody to sit me down and tell me, you know, I had this internal check that said, if this person says this to me, that he obviously thinks it's a possibility. And maybe he just crazy like that. Maybe he just bold. Maybe he just think he got it like that. Or maybe I'm sending out a signal. So I check myself before I wreck myself. And instead of me getting all mad at him and going off on him, which I did a few times, but I'm just saying the reality is maybe a brother saw something. And so, and this is when I was single. Of course, I have a great husband and he puts me in check. There's been times when I'm having a conversation, but it might look like I'm having too much of a conversation. Maybe I'm saying too much. Maybe I'm laughing too much. Maybe I'm touching too much. Maybe I'm not seeing. I could be naive sometimes, but I got a real brother who can see, and he's like, "Sin, back that up a little bit." And so I might get offended. What you think? What you think? But the true reality is he sees from a man's perspective. And I respect that about him. I ain't going to fight with him. I'm going to respect that, because sometimes you just don't know. Just like some clothes you put on. Thank God if you got a good husband like that. They say, where you think you're going with that? You think you planning on wearing that today? No, you're not. Burn it. Or wear it when you only with me. Oh, that's he's controlling, he's this, that, and he's third. No, he's seeing from a man's perspective. And he's protecting you. And so you, until you get your own check system inside of yourself, you look in that mirror and you can see, you like, oh, this will work. What are you trying to work? What are you trying to attract? Why? Why do you need that? Why do you need all that attention? Why do you need to be seen to the point where it can be controversial and you could be considered thirsty? Women see that as threats. Women see that as pity. They feel sorry for you. You don't want people walking around feeling sorry for you. And some, I'm from the Holiness Church, so they'll give you an outfit in a minute. They say, "Here, baby, I bought this for you." What are they saying? They're not gonna say, you look too sexy. They're gonna say, "This will look better on you. You put it on, you be looking like Little House on the Prairie," because they trying to communicate, and you don't want to have to go through that. When you gonna wear the outfit I gave you? I ain't never gonna wear that. I don't like that. But the problem is that it's hard to communicate these things. So people will do the best they can. Me, if you ask me, I'm gonna tell you, you look a little thirsty, but you look nice colors, nice outfit, but it's too small. Because sometimes the clothes, if it fits in your pocketbook and your pocketbook is this small, and you don't have that kind of body, you probably shouldn't be wearing that. You look like 5 pounds of bologna in a 2-pound bag. Why you want to do that to yourself? That's not necessary, and it works more against you than it works for you. So these are things that, you know, maybe your mama didn't tell you. Hey, I'm somebody's mama, and I think that you should be careful with your style, careful with your appearance, and more importantly, careful with your overturns and your gestures. If you are there to serve and you're on a committee to serve, or you're in the department that serves people, remember your public appearance speaks louder than your voice. When you show up for a job interview, you have to look a certain way. At least back in the day, we had a certain dress code for job interviews. You wore a nice suit, you wore a nice shoe, you didn't wear stiletto heels, and you didn't wear sexy clothes. You were not overly, it was not about your sexy, it wasn't even about your beauty, it was about your professionalism and your ability to do the job. So if you are in ministry, it's about your ability to do the job. If you are a singer, if you're on a show and it's a runway model, that's a different kind of thing. If you're in a movie, it's different. But when you serve public people, you have to have a safe appearance. It's important. Nobody wants you serving homeless men and you look in a certain way. You don't know where they come from, and they might follow you out the door. You got to just be reserved. And this is across the board. So today we talked about what women see. We talked about what we see in ourselves. We talked about what older women see. Last week we talked about what men see. We're going to come back next week. We're going to talk about, in our next show rather, we're going to talk about what the kids see. And the kids matter because we are influential, and we're going to talk about those things. We're going to deal with those things. Again, we're going to get to a place in this series where we are going to offer some real solid biblical help. We're going to offer some real solid social help, emotional help. We're going to talk about some of the things that cause us to have these kinds of needs. We realize that we all have a need to be needed. But this idea of being thirsty and being desperate for attention and validation, it comes from somewhere. And we're going to get to that. But if we can get you to see from a perspective of other people that's not so nice, perhaps it will matter to you how you are being perceived, to the point where you'll make some changes, to the point where when you look in that mirror and it's banging and you look like, you need to look, that will get you to the point where you ask yourself, wait a minute, what am I trying to catch here? What kind of fish am I trying to catch here? And who am I trying to attract? And especially if my service to the public, if I'm serving in ministry, if I'm serving in public, if I'm serving humanity and community, what message am I trying to send to the people that I am serving? And if the answer comes back, not this outfit, not this face, not this persona, if I'm talking too much, if I'm leaning in too much, if I feel like I am the center of attraction in a room, is that my goal? Am I trying to be the center of attraction? And then we need to deal with why and how that affects the other people in the room is really, really important. And I know that it's going to help you. It might hurt in the beginning, it might sting a little bit, but it's going to help in the end. So those of you who are watching and joining in, you were with me last time, you're with me this time, and some of y'all were like, she needs to shut up and mind her business. If that's you, I want to hear from you. If that's not you and you in it to help and you want to help me help people, let's do it. Let's pull out, get your people in the room. It's plenty of seats at my table. My table is open to everybody, men, women, and just long as you're an adult, because I don't know how to flavor this for the children. And some of my subjects are a little racy. So it's for adults, but all adults are welcome at my table. So thanks again for joining me at Seat at My Table. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye now.